and that way you can go back to it if you'd like. And yeah, anyway, I'm really excited to have you all. I thought we'd do I can kind of walk you through what I think we're going to do today. This is our first session, so it's real basic, just the basics, the principles, like where did this come from, and learn a little bit about your places. We're going to get to know each other. Well, obviously we're going to review the tie line, but really we're going to learn about the principles, the history, and kind of where we're going over the coming months. But before that, I thought we'd do a quick icebreaker just so we can all get to know each other a little bit better. So just your name, your organization, and I need a sign of spring. It snowed yesterday, so I'm kind of I'm in Vermont, just outside of Burlington. So it's not uncommon, but it's a little disturbing sometimes. So especially when it feels like spring is coming and then it's sort of not coming. So anyway, I'll start. Melissa Levy. I work part-time with NATO around wealth creation, and then I also do rural economic development consulting through a firm. My firm is called Community Roots, and I'm in Vermont. And my favorite sign of spring is like that time. I hear it's like really noticeable when like the buds are on the trees and there's that like yellow green glow, like a halo around the trees. That is my very favorite sign of spring. Spring in Vermont is a lot like mud season, so the rest of it isn't much fun, but that part is quite nice. So I will pass it along. I'm gonna get out of this. I'm gonna also take notes just for my own, so I remember who everybody is. And I'm just gonna go across my screen the way it looks. So Lisa, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Lisa Ryan. I work for the Concho Valley Council of Governments. We're in San Angelo, Texas, which is pretty much the middle of the state. Most people don't know where San Angelo is. We have a 14 county region. And since I'm in Texas, my favorite sign of spring is the Texas bluebonnet.
Ah, and that's a flower, I'm assuming.
Yes, yes, it's actually like
Okay,
a wildflower.
cool. Okay, great. I think, yeah. Who else? Lindsay.
Hi, my name's Lindsay Brown, and I am the Deputy Executive Director at the Lake Cumberland Area Development District. We are located in Kentucky, South Central Kentucky. We serve 10 counties and 14 municipalities. And my favorite time of spring is the March lilies. And
Mm,
it's about 70 here today, so it's very nice
wow.
weather.
That sounds lovely. I'm jealous already. Haley.
Hi guys, I'm Haley. I'm not officially in the cohort. I work at NATO with Melissa, so she's just letting me tag along as she mentors me in all things wealth creation. Um, and my favorite sign of spring is the birds chirping in the morning when you wake up and just like the animals coming back out after they've been hiding away in winter. So,
Yes.
yes.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't know when your birds start, but ours start really early, though. It's kind of shocking. And the bears are out.
Oh,
So,
bears. Okay, I don't know
the-
about bears, but
yeah, that's
critters and other little things.
yes. The bear, when they come out of hibernation, everybody's garbage is at risk. So, yes. Sawyer.
Hey y'all, my name's Sawyer Summers. I work with the Regional Planning Commission of Greater Birmingham out of Birmingham, Alabama. We serve a 6 county region with 84 municipalities. And while I'm a huge environmental fella, I have to say my favorite sign of spring is seeing more people out. People out in the
Mm,
parks, people out on the sidewalks. It's like the whole world's coming back to life. People they get done with their seasonal depression and they're like, well, I guess I got to be human again.
yeah, I'm with you. That's cool. Birmingham. All right. Been there. Okay, Corinne. Am I saying your name right? Yeah.
Yes, my name is Corinne Olson. I work for CERTA. We're the Southeastern Regional Development Agency in Southeast Utah. So I'm located in Price, but we're pretty rural. But if you know where Moab's at, I'm a couple hours from Moab. We cover 4 counties. It's 26% of the state and about 1.6% of the population. So very sparse. But we've had a really weird winter. We haven't gotten any snow this winter, so I feel like it's been spring for the past 4 months. But the birds are chirping, so I also enjoy the birds chirping in the morning.
Nice. Thanks, Corinne. Taylor?
Hi, yeah, I'm Taylor Lennox. I'm the Community Economic Development Program Manager with Mission West Community Development Partners, and we're a CRC or CDC. We serve a 3-county region in western Montana, and the Flathead Indian Reservation as well. And I would say my favorite, really just growing up in Montana, it was always the buttercups that really signified things were changing, and they have just started to pop up in the mountains. So
Cool.
that's the sign for me.
Thanks. Thank you. Ethan?
Hi everyone, I'm Ethan Wary. I'm the finance director and planner with the Mid-Iowa Planning Alliance. We're the only region in Iowa that does not have a council of governments, but we're working towards that designation within our state legislation. Our state legislation is now ending, so we'll have to try again next year. But we're fairly new. We serve the 7 counties in central Iowa. We're represented by the Denver EDD Economic Development District. But favorite sign of spring. I like everyone's answer so far, the birds and the birds seeing the people too, because Iowa gets really cold, gets really windy. But then also I love the extended daylight. It's not dark at 5 p.m. anymore.
Yeah.
And so my depression's kind of going away. So
I'm with you. I was noticing that it was still light out at like 7 yesterday, and I was like, wow, it's here. And I was just in Iowa for my first time last month, so in Cedar Rapids. So
Oh, yep. Yep. I grew up around the Cedar Rapids area. So
cool. Yeah, it was lovely. Um, it smells like cereal there. I guess there's like a Quaker
yes.
Oats factory. I was like, what is that smell? Apparently it just smells like cereal all the time.
Yeah,
So
we have Quaker Oats, General Mills, and ADM corn processing plant. So you get a variety of smells depending on where you're at.
fascinating. Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Hey y'all, Ryan Collins. I'm with the NATO. I'm off camera because I'm also finishing eating lunch right now. But my favorite sign, I'm in Ohio, Zanesville, Ohio specifically, and my favorite sign of spring is definitely the birds.
Yeah, cool. And Brittany.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Simonich. I work with Taylor at Mission West. We serve 3 counties. So we're north of Missoula, and I'm the community development coordinator. And I would second what Ethan said, longer days for sure, more light. So
Nice.
that's what I enjoy about spring.
Lovely. Well, thanks for playing along. I like doing a like an icebreaker at the beginning of each session, just get to know each other a little bit more personally. And I don't know, it's nice to learn more. Some of them are going to be kind of self-serving, like books and things like that, because I need things or movies or whatever. But I was thinking about spring personally because things are starting to bud a little bit here. It takes us a little longer. Oh, it is sugaring season here in Vermont, so all the sugar houses are like steaming and the sap is getting collected. It's very exciting. That's another cool sign of spring in Vermont. But so yes, I also wanted to say I make these calls an hour and a half, but we don't always use it. I just like to know we have it if we need it. It really depends. The second call of each month will be more discussion based and like what, assignments and things like that. So those are typically a little bit shorter. But yeah, anyway, this is kind of what I'm hoping to cover today is just like kind of the history, why it was developed, some of the principles, the forms of wealth, and this a little bit about stocks and flows of wealth. So yeah, anyway, this is just a quick history. There's actually a book. My old boss wrote this book called Wealth Creation that tells the entire history from her perspective. But it began in 2006. I was working at a consulting firm that was tasked by the Ford Foundation to help develop a rural economic development framework. And so I happened to be there kind of from the beginning, which was pretty lucky. Um, and the way that worked is we worked, we had a steering committee and a lot of advisors and kind of developed it. And then Ford wanted to put money on the ground in the kind of highest poverty regions. So we worked in the Deep South, the Central Appalachian region, and the lower Rio Grande Valley along the Mexico border. So grants were put out in those regions, and I had the opportunity to kind of support those grants, do coaching, do some facilitation, and some learning journeys where I brought some of these grantees and their groups to other parts of the country to learn. It was great, but Ford kind of like dropped their rural portfolio. So there is a variety of hubs around the country that keep it going. And NATO is also like a key national partner in WealthWorks, as is the Aspen Institute. Yeah, there's a lot. Rural community assistance partners. There's a lot of kind of national organizations that promote this approach, and then it's in regional hubs also. It was really successful. I think Ford just decided to go spend more of its time doing urban development. So it's been adopted by clearly NATO, some these other organizations. USDA has supported it clearly through the Community of Practice. EDA is supporting it. ActionAid, it's been used internationally. I just had the opportunity to do a project with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization to bring it to Afghanistan, which I will share more about over time for sure. And I guess the key thing I want to say is it's a framework. It's not like a step-by-step kind of thing. It's kind of a lens that you look through, and there are a lot of different ways to use it, which we'll be learning throughout this cohort. But it's really adaptive and yeah, it's interesting. We have a Wealth Creation Summit next week. I think Sawyer is joining us, um, and the thing I've been really not struggling with, but like I feel like people always want like what are the steps? But it's kind of just like how you see the world. It makes you see the world a little bit differently. So anyway, that's the basics about the history. Like I said, that book is very good and it goes through it more in detail. I recommend it. It's a good book. And this was the intent on the part of the Ford Foundation, and that intent has continued, which is really to change the way rural development is practiced, kind of away from attraction and extraction and more supply-based approaches to more of a demand-driven approach focused on wealth. And it was really about bringing rural areas into regional economies, making sure that they're building wealth, it's staying local, and that's leading to these kind of improved livelihoods for their people. So I'm going to stop for a second and let Heather, I know you joined us a little late, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. We kind of did introductions already, but do you want to just quickly introduce yourself? We did a kind of an icebreaker of who you are, what organization you're with, and your favorite sign of spring, I think. So.
Hi, I'm Heather Devitt. I'm the Deputy Director at Mohawk Valley Economic Development District. We cover the 6 counties in the Mohawk Valley, which is Fulton, Montgomery, Herkimer, Oneida, Otsego, and Schoharie. If you picture New York State, we're pretty much dead in the center. I am sorry for getting on late. We were just at a New York Forward DRI announcement, and one of the communities
Wow.
that I helped won $4.5 million. So I kind of had to be there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Um,
Excellent.
yeah, no, but my favorite sign of spring, I think, has to be either the robin or my executive director coming in shorts. I don't know, one or the other.
That is hilarious. Thank you. Nice to have a little levity. Okay,
Yeah.
well, welcome. I think I mentioned already where I record these kind of first calls of each month. So we're really just getting started. And I was just kind of sharing the history of wealth creation approach, and yeah, that's where we are. So welcome. Okay, guiding principles. Yes. These are kind of like, I want to say almost like the values behind the wealth creation approach, which it's really about being demand driven. It's not about we have this thing, let's push it out into the world. It's about like how can we connect the assets we have to things that people want, at its most basic. It's also about partnerships. It's about engaging a variety of different partners in pursuit of, it could be a value chain, it could be just working on your SEDS, it could be all different kinds of things, and making sure you're engaging a variety of different kinds of partners. It uses a tool called value chains, which we will talk about in more depth probably later in the cohort, but that's one kind of tool that you can use. I don't think you have to use it for everything. I think my former boss, who I guess is one of the kind of key founders of wealth creation, is for her, it was always about the value chains. And, the value chain is a useful tool, but it's not everything. And I think there are lots of ways to integrate wealth creation into your work without doing value chains. So measurements integrated into the entire process, as a tool for planning and adaptive management. So it's not just measurement for measurement's sake, it's measurement to do better, which is kind of what we use measurement for, is to understand how we're doing and how we can improve. Wealth sticks in places through attention to structures of ownership and control, which is a key part of this. How do we keep wealth and keep our assets local, under local control? And then the approach is really flexible, and that is kind of what I want to convey through this whole cohort. Is there any number of ways to integrate it into your work, and we're going to talk about a lot of them. Yeah. Oh, I did. It worked. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Last time I tried this, it didn't work. So anyway, I wanted to do this, to do a little quick interactive thing. So there's this, I thought we'd just do a quick interactive thing about like the two biggest assets in your region. So, Menti, let's see if I can get this to work. Hopefully you guys can. I feel like, oh yeah. So you just go to that menti.com and you put in this number, and then you can write in what you think. And it should show up there, I think, if it works the way I think it's supposed to work. I'm gonna put one in, but yeah. Oh, yay, it did work. Cool. I'm gonna put my own in. Neat. Oh, that's exciting. Thanks for playing my game. But yeah, if you want to put in the two biggest assets in your region, tourism is a big one. Nice. Recreation. I put in, oh, and I wanted to put in another one. Thanks for bearing with me. It's like, last time I tried this, it didn't work, but now it is working. So, And yeah, Heather, if it's a problem, I totally understand you're in the car. Um, wow. Okay. Excellent. This is fun. Cost of living, recreation, agriculture, tourism, clearly Adirondacks. Excellent. Huh. Neat. I wonder if I get to keep this. Anybody know how that works? Will this stay? I'm gonna take a picture. Okay. Well, thanks for playing along. I thought this would be a nice way of kind of introducing the assets, because that's a huge part of wealth creation is really, assets. So I'm going to move us forward. So this is my, if it didn't work, this was my other slide, but we don't have to do that. But I will just say, I do think of assets a lot when I think about like those top 10 places to live lists. Vermont is almost always on those lists, and it's for a variety of different reasons, right? Whether it's, recreation or, I don't know, uh, um, natural, different kinds of natural assets. And anyway, it's a really nice way of talking to people about their place. So, does anybody want to unmute and talk about something that they may be put in the Mentimeter? You don't have to, but I thought sometimes people really like talking about something cool in their place. Okay. So, what is wealth creation? So this is really, it's an approach to economic development. It's about connecting a region's assets to market demand, and building rooted wealth, which is what I was talking about with the local structures of local ownership and control. It's about bringing together all these different partners, and it's also about making sure that, organizations, people, and different partners, they may want to partner for lots of different reasons, but there's also self-interest, and we have to recognize that. And then it really, I mean, at its, again, I think there's a lot of different ways of using wealth creation. I think at kind of the far, at the end, like the kind of most involved part is really focused on building a sector. And rather than individual businesses, it's about building a sector and all the businesses that it contains. So, kind of these three kind of key parts of it are really what make it. It's about creating wealth, it's about rooting wealth, and it's about building livelihoods, by including people and firms on the economic and the social margins. The first, we're talking about building capitals. We talked about assets, capitals, wealth. It's kind of all, I use those words interchangeably. But again, wealth is not just money. It's, the reservoir of all assets that contribute to the well-being of people, places, and economies. And the thing I love about this is that every place has wealth. So I feel like and there is a time, there are places where people are like, we don't have anything. Well, they do have things. And this gives them a language for what they do have. Even if they don't have money, that's just one piece of the puzzle. So there are 8 capitals in this framework. Lots of frameworks have lots of different numbers of capitals. This one has 8. Probably some of these you're familiar with. Clearly, financial is pretty straightforward. Robert Putnam made social capital something that we all talk about now. And, built capital, we talk about infrastructure. That also includes information infrastructure. So, broadband and those kinds of things. Natural resources are just anything, again, clean, when we talk about assets, they're really count as assets if they're healthy. So, a kind of polluted river would not count as natural capital. And yeah, anyway, we use these capitals in a variety of different ways. One is just assessment, like what do we have, kind of inventory. Another is like designing strategies to build these capitals. And finally, we use it in measurement. It's something like when I did work on a SEDS, we use the capitals as a way to measure progress. And I'm finding more and more economic development districts are using the capitals in these ways, like assessment through their kind of asset inventory and through their SWOT analysis, designing strategies and measuring progress. So the other thing I wanted to bring up with it was this stock and flow idea, which is kind of an interesting one to think about. So we're really talking about building stocks of wealth. So a lot of times we talk about income as wealth, which it's a flow of wealth, right? If we think about wealth as a bathtub, then the income is what's coming into the bathtub. The stock is the bathtub, is the water in the bathtub, and then the expenses are what's coming out. So it's just an interesting way. And I think getting at the stocks versus the flows is really important for the work we're doing, because a lot of times we're talking about the flows when really we should be talking about the stocks. So in a perfect world, there's investment. The water coming into the bathtub is that investment that's increasing the stock. You're actually consuming some. I don't think we're saying not to consume these things, but there's some consumption. But then there's also this reinvestment kind of this flow back into the bathtub. And it's a little bit abstract, but if you start thinking about these stocks of wealth, then you can start to imagine what those flows in and out are and those reinvestments. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's a key. I don't really talk about it enough, but it's something I like to kind of sprinkle in at the beginning just to get your creative juices flowing about what some of these things mean. So I thought we'd just do another quick question. I like to do this because, everybody's skills are different. So I thought we would just take a little break and see if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Or if anyone wants to weigh in on a form of wealth you're best at building. I'm not gonna call on you, but if anybody, like for instance, I guess I can start. I So I do this a lot. I train people on wealth creation, whether it's in a cohort like this or in person or at conferences. So I think that's a strength of mine, which would be in it'd be kind of a combination of individual and intellectual, because I'm helping to build people's skills. But I'm also like broadening their knowledge base by using intellectual capital. So anybody want to weigh in? Yeah,
Yeah,
Sawyer.
I'll hop
Mhm.
in. You
Yeah,
mentioned Putnam, so I've got to mention social
yeah,
wealth, social
yeah.
capital. Community development specialist is my title. I take that to heart. In fact, my outgoing boss, when they hired me full time from a fellowship position, called it that just because she knew I'd accept it. But Birmingham is a beautifully small city in the sense that it's the biggest metro in the state. But unlike I've spent time, like I grew up in Nashville, I've spent time in Phoenix and Portland. Um, those are all so big and expansive. Like you can kind of be bad to people and it won't catch up with you. In Birmingham, you can build social fabric really fast. Like everyone is 2 degrees of connection apart. And we've been able to build some really cool stuff here. Like we're like working on building a folk school, and it brings together all types of different people. And the community partnerships are just like they're there if you just go out and you invest in them. So I would say social wealth.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, I've been there. I have done some projects in the Black Belt in like Camden, Selma area. So I don't have a lot of experience with Birmingham, but thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Reach out next time you're through town.
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah, I was supposed to be there last month, but it didn't happen. So, which is fine. Yeah, Lisa.
So I was just gonna say, I'm actually from large city. I'm from the Chicago area. Also lived in Phoenix for a long time, and now I'm in rural Texas. I look at things differently. I see things that locals don't see all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a huge advantage because there's things I can point out and say, we need to do this differently. The biggest thing I was shocked at was there's no strategic plan. Like, how do you not have strategic plans? Like, how's that not, how do you not live that way?
Yeah.
And right now I'm working on a project that we're doing a spaceport feasibility study.
Ah,
I don't know if they would have done that if I wasn't here saying, and really driving it and finding the excitement in it instead of
yeah.
the all the hard opposition to it of the, oh no, not
Yes.
here. So I just look at things differently because I see it through different eyes, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would consider that intellectual capital too, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
bringing new
Right.
ideas to a place that maybe isn't used to those ideas, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Mhm.
Yeah, anybody else?
Hi, I'll go, and it's kind of on those same lines.
Yeah.
That it's probably the intellectual capital. One of the big things that we do here is collaboration across economic development agencies. So we've actually put together what's called the Brownfields Developer Summit, and it's across all 6 counties. We've included 2 more counties this year. We're in our 5th year, and really we just come together. We bring state agencies, federal agencies, local municipalities together to learn about brownfields. And if you don't know what a brownfield is, it's a site that is or could be contaminated. If you, I we're right in the heart of New York State, so we run right along the Erie Canal and the Mohawk River, and we have a history of manufacturing. Amsterdam had the rugs, the rug capital of the world. Gloversville did a lot of tanning. Machine shops. Remington Arms was a mile from here where they did guns and ammunition and things like that. And just to bring 9 different economic development agencies together for one thing to lift the entire region up on brownfields is just it's
Yeah.
something that you don't normally see. And I will brag a little bit. We get last year we had over 300 people at our brownfields, and this is one of the EPA's fan favorites that
Oh.
they try to bring the entire team, but if they can't, then they vie. I don't know if they do rock, paper, scissors, but they all try to get here.
That's cool. I would say that's intellectual and also social. You're bringing all these people together who are then making their own connections. And, if we think about what what comes of that, that would be built capital too, as communities are you know, fixing and revitalizing
Remediating.
us. Yeah, remediating. I
Yeah.
used to do
Well,
brownfields work, but yeah.
yeah, so remediating the cleanup, a lot of times the infrastructure is there, but really just putting buildings back into productive use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Fun. Thanks for sharing, Heather. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else want to weigh in? Oh, yeah. Thanks, Haley. That's great. I know I kind of zipped out of there. I like being able to see people when I'm talking to them. So, yeah. Anybody else? No pressure, but if there's something you want to share, this,
I'll
yeah.
go. So
Yeah.
like where we stand at, we see ourselves as the area development district as the liaison between our cities and counties and as well as Department for Local Government. And I can say that we have a very good relationship as far as judges calling us where you're doing their CDBG applications, their EDA. We've done brownfields just like Heather has said before. And from our standpoint, we want to be that liaison that, they're not calling the Department for Local Government. So
Mhm.
we live in a very rural area. Our cities and counties don't have a lot of money. We were very fortunate that our state put together a match funding program. So we are in the ARC territory as well, 80, 20, 70, 30, wherever they're sitting at. So a lot of our cities and counties took advantage of that matching fund, and they're only having to give 2 to 3% of a $1 million project. So it's done a lot for us, and we're very appreciative of our representatives and everyone that was able to do that. And they've actually put money back in after this General Assembly too.
That's great. And that's a perfect example of political capital, right? Is like that liaison role and bringing, political capital that's leading to financial capital, right? So, brilliant. I love it. Excellent. All right. Excellent. Well, you guys get it. And I'm sure you all have amazing stories of the cool things that you're doing. But it's funny, I used to use that as an exercise actually in person where like we'd put like stickies like of what we were good at and then what we could use help with. And then we'd have people kind of connect in person and like learn from each other. It's a little bit messy, but sometimes it works. But I do like talking about it because I think all of us have some strength in these capitals, right? Like something that we're good at facilitating. And so I think it's a nice way to I don't know, pat ourselves on the back a little that you're already doing some of this stuff. One thing about wealth creation, you know, there are so many different frameworks, and I feel like wealth creation is one mixture of putting things together that probably a lot of it you're already doing. So I don't want it to seem like a heavy lift at all because I think you're doing lots of it already. It's just how we talk about it, the language we use, and kind of how we kind of approach things. So okay, moving along. A big piece of this is about local ownership. Like, how do we make sure that the wealth that our regions do have stays, right? And that's by, that's important because then you can capture and control the flow of benefits from those capitals. We talked about stocks and flows. I'm sure you've all read the research about multipliers and how a dollar spent locally, that dollar is circulating however many times. And so it's all part of that. So the benefits can be reinvested and recirculated. It increases the chances of preserving local jobs if we really focus on local ownership of our businesses and assets. And it's an anchor that helps wealth stay. And so there are a lot of different methods of doing this. These are just some that we talk about. Certainly buy local campaigns. I feel like everybody has one of those. But regional branding, this is an example I'll pull out at some point, probably when we're talking about value chains, but different kinds of cooperatives. Resident-owned communities is another example I really love. Those aren't everywhere. I know you see them in New England. I know they're in Montana. There are some resident-owned communities where, manufactured home communities are bought by their residents, which is quite an interesting model. And it's great. But there are a lot of different ways of making wealth stick. These are just some examples. There's a piece that I put together that's on our website that goes into like a lot of different, a ton more examples that might be useful. And then finally, the reason the Ford Foundation created this framework is they really wanted to like build livelihoods in kind of lower income places. And so it was really about engaging people on the margins in the economy in different ways. And so that's the other kind of key piece of this is always thinking about how what we're doing creates livelihoods that last in our regions, so that people can have improved skills, higher paying jobs, build their own assets, personal assets. So that is a key piece. It's again part of this lens that we talk about. Since I've been at NATO, so I've been at NATO for God, I don't really know. It's been a couple of years. Part of this, part of me being at NATO is the NATO has this economic development district community of practice through the Economic Development Administration. And one of the buckets of work in that community of practice is wealth creation, because NATO has been involved for a while. And so as I started working with NATO on this, I had to think a little bit differently about how EDDs actually could use this framework. In the past, it was always like anybody could use it, like a community could use, I mean, anybody can use it. I've definitely worked in communities with it. Like I said, I was working in Afghanistan with it. You can use it at a county level. I know folks use it at an organizational level, but I really needed at NATO to focus on EDDs. And this is kind of what I've come up with, which is these kind of three areas. One is really like this focus on assets, and that happens mostly through the SEDS. I know a lot of folks are really interested in how to integrate it into the SEDS, and as I said, there's a lot of ways to do that, and we're going to have a whole session just on that, on how EDDs have integrated it into their SEDS and how they can. I think I mentioned it's a lot through, inventorying assets. The SWOT is a great example of how to use it. There are really nice examples of EDDs using it in their SWOT. There's a couple where they're using it in their strategies, actually organizing their strategies by the forms of capital, and then measurement. So we will talk a lot about that. There's also this middle point where EDDs are supporting their sectors to collaborate, like not because they shouldn't be competing against each other, which they should, but there are ways that you can collaborate while you're competing, right? You can work together on workforce development issues. You can work together on joint purchasing. There are lots of different ways that sectors can come together and collaborate for mutual benefit. So that's kind of the middle part. And then the value chain is kind of the, if we're thinking about like easy ways to integrate it to the harder ways, the value chain is kind of the nth degree of wealth creation. And we're going to do that too. We're going to do value chain mapping. And the only, value chain mapping isn't a thing in itself. It's a tool. It's another tool for understanding where the gaps are in your chain and how you can actually make things move from supply to demand more effectively. So we're going to do all of this, but this is kind of where I've come out at NATO of how EDDs can and are using it. And I guess I should also say, especially on the value chain side, I don't think EDDs are actually building value chains, and I'm not really sure they should be, but they're playing a supportive role and supporting, organizations and businesses in their regions to actually build value chains. So that's not to say they can't. There are definitely examples of EDDs that are building value chains. I've seen Region 5 in Minnesota has built some local food hub kind of value chains, energy. I mean, they've done some really amazing work, but I don't think everybody is cut out for that. So, yeah. And this is my lens idea. So the other thing, I guess I wanted to and I'll be talking about this all the time, is like I struggle with how to explain this, but those of us that have been doing this for a while, it's not like we have like these steps that we take, but it's just like these glasses that we put on, right? These lenses that we look through to see things a little bit differently. So it's not, I don't want it to seem like a heavy lift, because I don't think it really is. These are some examples of how I think it comes out if you're looking through this lens, using the 8 capitals in your SEDS, supporting sectors, building partnerships, even just engaging partners, you can look at that through this lens of like, how do we engage partners with strengths in different areas, kind of like the exercise we just did about what our strengths are. You can build partnerships that way too. And keeping wealth local, I mean, you can build partnerships that will help support that goal too. So I think there are a lot of really interesting ways of building partnerships by looking through this lens. And then supporting market opportunities. There's actually, I've developed more ideas and I will share those. But like one thing I've noticed is that organizations are starting to use wealth creation to think about their internal, like organizational culture too, in terms of engaging diverse partners. And anyway, yeah, I just put out a piece that I will share with you that goes into kind of like gets a little bit more granular in terms of like, what does looking through a wealth creation lens actually mean? Like, what can you think about doing differently by looking through this lens? And so I just put that out. It's like a few pages, but I will share it with you. Yeah. Anyway, that's the basics. This is really, I think that's all I really wanted to accomplish today, but does anybody have any questions? I know I just spewed a lot out at you, but I really just wanted this to be kind of an introduction. I didn't want to overload you with a lot, but any questions, thoughts? This is the timeline. I just wanted to share this to show you where we are. We're at the beginning. So I will see you all at the end of the month because we're having our Wealth Creation Summit next week, which I'm really excited about. And on our next call week, I can kind of debrief. We can debrief that a little bit. And I know Sawyer will be there. Maybe he can weigh in on anything he learned or wanted to share. But yeah, Ethan, something you want to?
Yeah, just a quick question.
Yeah.
For any and all young professionals or people that are new to this, to economic development or wealth creation or any of these concepts, like what's like the best way for us to kind of get going at this? You know, we may not have the most influence in the areas that we're working in, but how can this cohort and what we're going through help us bring this wealth creation and everything to our regions?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I mean, I guess I think that learning about it and getting to practice in it will give you the knowledge and the comfort level to actually, share it with your communities. I mean, I think that's a nice way. I actually just did a webinar for one of our members in Michigan. They just asked me, and I was like, yeah, I'm happy to spend an hour doing a webinar. And so they had some of their communities on, and I did a little more than I did today because I needed to kind of go through everything at a surface level. So I went through the sector collaboration, the SEDS, and the value chains, and I think that's a nice way to engage your communities, just to think about it, and just to educate them, because I think in a lot of ways, like, it just provides a language for things that we already intuitively know, right? We know our regions have assets. We just don't know, maybe we don't quite know the language to use in these different cases. But I think that's just one idea. I don't know if others have ideas, but.
Hi, I'm actually kind of, oh, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I'm kind of just high level thinking on this, and I'm thinking about introducing this first to the other employees in the office, and like pulling up those 8 different
Yes.
wealth creations, and really just doing almost like a brainstorm. What is our infrastructure? What is this? What are we good at? And starting there so that once we have an idea of what it is, we can start adding it in little by little when we talk to our municipalities, or if we're talking to our board, or if we're talking to, a business or something like that, and just us as an organization understanding it first, but also doing that little bit of a work where, like, okay, let's define this and let's get some ideas so that when we are out in the moment, we're not going uh uh and we can rattle those off.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that is your homework actually, is to do a bit of an asset inventory. So perfect. Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea. I think as an organization, that's one thing I know Region 5 has done really well, is just like incorporated it into the DNA of their organization and then out into their communities. And so that is, yeah, I love that. Yeah, Haley, did you have something you want to add?
It was kind of in the same
Mm-hmm.
same zone as what Heather said. I think it's also a good way to think about partners who might not immediately come to mind, but if you're trying to work on a project and you're like, okay, we kind of have individual wealth, intellectual wealth, like we got that in-house, but where can we bring other partners in? And also, when you have conversations with those partners, showing them that they do bring value to a project, even if it's not as obvious, but sort of a tool to bring people in on projects too.
I love that. That's a great.
Could I add
Yeah.
one thing? So
Absolutely.
I don't know what you count as early career, but I've been in the field for 2.5 years. I'd count that early career. And a lot of my favorite connections, most meaningful long-term connections, have come from basically learning about these good ideas. So like find some good books, get some recommendations, read them, find something you care about. And then when you're going to conferences and stuff, I mean, like, how many times have you heard, like, this is my name, this is where I work, this is what I do? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't mean to be rude, but that's not going to build a meaningful connection. Like, share ideas that you care about, find where it overlaps. Like one of my favorite connections I met by accident. He's the guy that got me involved with the folk school stuff. And he started the Alabama Center for Employee Ownership, wealth creation. Love to see it. Um, but the way that we connected was just by like mutually caring, like
Mm-hmm.
when you're at these different like professional development type things and conferences and stuff, just share these ideas that you're learning about, and you'll connect in a meaningful way. That's had a huge, very outsized impact on my early career.
Cool. Well, I'm counting on you to do that next week, Sawyer. Cool. Excellent. Yeah, anybody else? And we can talk about this throughout too. I think, throughout this, our time together, we're going to be talking about like how to engage our communities, how to engage our staff, how to actually operationalize this in different ways. So we'll be kind of going deeper into each of these areas over the course of it. But okay. Any other questions, concerns, stories, anything you want to add? Okay. Well, I think I only have a couple of slides left, but I wanted to share our timeline just so you see what it's where we're going. We're going to talk about, this is kind of our intro. We're going to talk about the SEDS and kind of asset mapping and things like that. We'll talk about that sector collaboration piece, and then we'll really dig into kind of the value chain pieces. So like a key part of mapping a value chain is understanding demand, right? This is demand driven. So we don't want to just have a product or service and push it out to the market. We need to know what the actual demand is. And then, again, the value chain mapping there's a purpose. It's not just an exercise, but the purpose is to get goods and services flowing, and figuring out what's in the way. And then we'll finish by seeing how you want to use it and how I can be helpful to you in doing that. So that's the next, I guess 6 months. But I'm really excited that you're all with me, and I'm glad that NATO staff are hanging with us too. I am going to assign, like, I'm not asking for much. These are really pretty straightforward, simple things, but I have gosh, where is, anyway, my idea here is there are two different kind of things. I'll share them both with you. I don't know why I can't, sometimes I feel like I should use Zoom because this doesn't always, oh, here we are. I was going to I think I can put it right in here. But anyway, there are these two kind of tools that I thought would be fun for you to try. You can try one or both. One is just the asset inventory, what we were talking about, if you want to use with your staff or just with yourself. Again, you don't have to go into extreme detail, but it just provides like a nice way of thinking about the assets you have in your region. And then this other thing, this spider web thing, is another tool that we use. It's a little bit less granular than listing out your assets, but it provides a way of kind of talking about the strength of your capitals. I've used this in communities, like where I ask people in the same community to do this, and it's really fascinating because, how you score your capital really depends on where you sit in that community, right? Like everybody's perceptions are different. It actually creates really interesting conversations. Anyway, so those are two things. I thought I had them in here. I apologize. I'm going to just dump them into the chat, but I will also send them to you. And the idea is before our next call, if you can do it, and then we can share. If you want to put together a slide or two, that's fine too. Or if you just want to talk through it, totally up to you. Oh yeah, here it is. So this is sorry, this document I just put in the chat has both of them. So it has the spider diagram tool and this asset inventory tool. So yes, our next call I think is I can't see, the 29th. So if you can do that by then, and if you want to send me slides or if you just want to talk about it, it's, if you're a slide person, I'm like a slide person because I like people to look at the slides rather than me. So, but yeah, however you want to do it, I'd love on that call just to hear how it went and to see, what you came up with. So I think that will be fun, and we'll get to learn about each of our regions too, which will be fun. And then I just wanted to share a couple of resources too. This WealthWorks website is the original WealthWorks website. This is managed by the Aspen Institute, and NATO is a part of it, and all of the other hubs around the country are part of it as well. There are some great modules on here. Under the basics, you'll see some learning modules. There's some great success stories, and there's some resources. There's some videos too. I mean, if you want to, I think some of the videos are really helpful if you want to engage new people in it. So, and then this is the NATO Wealth Creation website. And so this has reports that I've been putting together. It has training materials and different kinds of tools and resources. All the stuff about our cohort will live here too. There's a cohort. This image is old. There's actually a cohort tab where you'll find the recordings and the PowerPoint slides for these sessions. So, yeah. And actually, all the presentations from the summit next week will be up here as well, after I come back. So, but we had a summit 2 years ago in South Carolina, and all the information from that is there too. So there's a lot on both these sites if you want to explore further. I wanted to share this too. So um, part of the evolution of WealthWorks means that there are regional hubs that are experienced in this work. And these are who they are. Community Roots up here in the Northeast, that's me. But there's others around the country. The summit we're having next week is actually in partnership with Rural Development Initiatives in the Pacific Northwest. We're collaborating with them and kind of overlapping with their big Regards to Rural conference. And you'll notice there are some gaps here. So if you're in one of those gaps, I'm your person. I'm actually happy to help anyone anywhere with WealthWorks. But if you know these organizations and they're in your region, they'd be good people to know. And I would be promoting my meeting next week, but it's kind of too late. And if you're not coming, we'll report back. I'll report back when I see you next about how it went and what kinds of things we did. But our next big event is the annual training conference in Reno this year, and I'm putting together some wealth creation sessions at that point. So yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Unless folks have questions or anything you want to kind of talk about, you can reach me anytime. I really do. I'm happy to help in whatever way, people might need. If it's like even a presentation to your organization or to your communities or whatever, sometimes it's just helpful to have somebody else do that. But yeah, any initial thoughts, concerns, questions? No. Okay. Sounds good.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I won't keep you any longer than I have to, but yeah, that's why I said sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's longer. But I try to make them kind of bite size that we're not trying to tackle too much in one session. But yeah. And if you haven't, I know it's a pain. If you haven't done that pre-assessment, I think probably most of you have done it. And if you did, I appreciate it. It's just part of, because this work is funded by EDA. At some point, I have to report back on how this went. And it helps to have a pre and a post. So if you haven't done that, that'd be great if you would. And yeah, and I will send that homework assignment by email too if you didn't get it in the chat here. Or if you have questions about it, let me know. But it's so great to meet you all. I'm really excited about the next few months working on this with you all. So thank you. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Melissa.
Melissa.
See you next
Yeah.
time.
See you guys.
All right. Thanks,
Bye now.
everybody. All right. Bye.